Michael Bennett has talked about the transition, left-right transition for a guy that's been on one side his whole career. How difficult can that be, and how is he dealing with it?
Mike's, first of all, he's handling it really well, and I think he sees the opportunities with the availability of the guys he's able to rush with. And what that allows us to do, and has allowed us to do with him, is kind of create a lot of matchup problems for guys. So we're able to move a lot of pieces in different places, and it took him a minute to get adjusted, but he's done really well, and he's really had a good week these last couple of weeks.
Has the lack of bodies in a lot of ways really handcuffed you guys in terms of some of the schemes you wanted to set up and things like that?
I didn't know we had a lack of bodies. We played like 8 guys. Not really, because the situation dictates the personnel. And so we've been able to get up in some games and been able to rush a time or two. And then when it is time to anchor, we've had the right guys in there at the right time. So I felt good about that. Obviously last week we had a couple of big runs that we would like to fit better, but that didn't have anything to do with the personnel.
What has Trayvon shown yet? He's been up for a couple weeks.
Trayvon is an explosive player. He has some similarities to Tim Jernigan's in regards to how twitchy he is on the backside. A lot of time Fletcher Cox gets a lot of attention, and he has some ability to win some one-on-ones, and we need that.
I mean, it's probably. I mean, Fletcher obviously has played at a high level his career, but I mean, has he even taken it to a higher level this year?
I believe so. I mean, I think every year, the goal for everybody is to improve, and he's doing that. Like again, I tell those guys earlier, I think he had a great off season. Had a chance to spend a lot of time with him this off season when we were in the building, and it's kind of carrying over into the season for him. So there's still a lot of improvement he can make. So we'll just keep pushing the gas until we get to where we need to get to.
What did you see when he was in the building here with you that you think has paid off now on the field?
I think the biggest thing is, and he's always been in shape, but I think at year 7 or 8, I don't know which year it is for Fletch, but he's really knows what how his body feels and what works for him. And he came in great shape, and he's playing at a high level. The conditioning has been a big factor in my mind.
Up until these last 2 weeks when Barnett was dealing with shoulder injuries, before that he was taking the most snaps at defensive end. What has stood out about him in the second year, and why is he kind of the top guy there?
Well, what Derek has done is obviously he's got some experience, and the biggest thing is he's gotten in a position where he understands what we do from a defensive standpoint. He's developed a role for himself, and we talked about this all off season. He came back with more of the ability to play with power, and that's been big for us.
If you sort of look down the road for Derek, how good do you think he can be?
Well, I don't cap any of these guys, and so much of that is up to how he works. And the one thing I do know, and I can attest to and measure, is that every day he comes out and works. He competes, he plays hard, he studies well. So I think he can be as good as he wants to be.
You mentioned what sort of makes him special as a player?
Well, I think he has the intangibles. He's a great work ethic. B, he's talented. He has the ability to bend corners, and when you can combine that with a guy who has a great work ethic, it gives you a high ceiling.
You brought up Tim
Are you concerned at all with the amount of snaps that Fletcher gets? I mean, he's averaging about 85% of the snaps. I mean, just as like the season goes on and stuff.
Well, I think we do. First of all, it depends on the number of the snap plays. If we were playing 80 to 100 snaps, absolutely. But when you're playing 60 snaps, you prepare a guy to play 40 of those. And a lot of it has been situations where he's had the ability to go rush, and everybody likes to rush. So, that's been a compliment for us. But as of now, no.
What's Haloti brought to the D-line?
I'll be right back. Halotti's been great. He's given us the ability to really have a big presence on normal downs. Great in the run game. Played his best game right before he was injured, and in the rush game as far as being a rusher. So he's really shown some positive things for us.
What do you think from Josh Sweat in practice in terms of his development?
He's explosive.
Yeah.
He's long. He's athletic. In the learning curve, he learns well. That's the one biggest thing that I noticed, that he has the ability to process things for a young guy. For a lot of young guys, it takes some time to really understand, but our vets have done a good job with him and bringing him in, and they see that he can add to us and help us quite a bit.
What do you think the timetable is on Tim at this point?
I have no idea. I'm obviously I'm not the doctor. That's something you have to talk to our trainers about.
A lot of times we'll see Fletcher make a tackle down the field. Seems like he's always hustling after the play. Where does he get that? Where does that come from? And
Well,
you guys even coach that up.
we emphasize it.
Oh,
First of all, it's a big point of emphasis. And, you know, guys talk about commitment. To me, your commitment is measured by your ability to get to the football. And your lack thereof is measured on your ability of not getting to the football. So I think you make that kind of commitment, team defense. But one thing we know is it eliminates big plays. And when we can get 11 guys to the football, it helps us as much as we can.
What has Tim's demeanor been like since he's been injured these last few months? I mean, how has he handled that?
Been great.
Yeah.
In all the meetings, doing the things we've asked him to do to get his rehabilitation going. So Timmy's been awesome.
Brandon obviously wasn't 100% from week 1, but was able to get out there. How much more improved is he physically from what you see from where he was to start the season?
Well, when you look at it compared to not taking any preseason, you know, this is probably his really second or third real football game that he's in. And you can see that he's progressively getting better and better. Right now, Brandon is kind of our wild card. He can play anywhere on the defensive line, inside, left, right. So again, he's doing well.
Pelotti's a guy who has a history with injuries. Obviously, if he's banged up like he's been, is Trayvon ready to kind of be that number 2 defensive tackle next to Fletcher?
Yes.
And why do you say that?
He's prepared well. He's a pro football player. And that's why he's in the building. So we'll just get our preparation ready. And like we all know, football is the greatest team sport in the world. He won't be out there by himself, and he'll be around a lot of good football players with him.
How have you and Bennett gotten along in terms of 2 strong personalities?
Awesome. I coach, he plays.
Yeah.
and we don't cross that line. Mike's a passionate guy, and I know that's a term we use for a lot of guys. But the one thing Mike is, he's a smart football player. He understands the game of football and what should occur. And since he's been here, he's been a pleasure and he's been productive. And you know that's a great quality for me.
How is he taken to the rotation and the fewer snaps that he's been getting, based upon what he used to get?
Good and still productive with him. You know, he's making them stretch. And what I tell these guys, you know, this if you can do this the right way and still compete and win, you know, I think this extends your career as you get older and you get a little long hair like myself. You know, it extends a little bit, and now all of a sudden you can be more productive with less snaps.
What have you seen behind the scenes with Jernigan? We saw him out on the practice field for the first time for these last couple of days. What's going on behind the scenes? What kind of progress has he made?
His energy, just you can see him. You know, it's not always just about ball. You want to make sure that the energy's right, and he comes out and he's happy and he's excited to be around the guys, and that's what you want. And he's out there learning. It's not going to be hard to teach him football. He understands that part. It's just getting him back into the rhythm and getting him in shape, and that'll be the next step.
What's he able to do now that shows signs of progress compared to?
The biggest thing is he's just been out there learning. He's been on the field, been a part of it. We didn't have that access not too long ago, but now having him back on the field, you get a chance to talk through the progressions and the concepts out on the field with him.
Through 6 games, how would you assess how the D-line has put pressure on opposing quarterbacks?
Well, it's been good. And, you know, it's never enough. You know, we're 3-3 right now, and so I judge things on winning. I don't judge them on just statistical deals. We've had some really good days as rushers and sacks. I think we're in the top 9 or 10 or something like that in sacks, and so that's great. Top 2 in run, but it always comes down to the bottom line, winning football games, and that's the #1 stat for us.
In the losses, do you think that you could have gotten more pressure on the quarterback in the losses, and do you think that might have been?
You can always get more pressure. Wins, losses, ties. There's never enough.
In Chris Long's case, his
offense is scheming more this year to get the ball out quicker?
Yes.
As opposed to last year?
Yes. I don't know if compared to last year, but yes to this year, yes to last year. Yes.
In Chris Long's case, his playing time's up this year. He took over 70% of the snaps last week. Why is that? What about him this year is earning him more time?
Well, he just adds to the rotation, and it keeps getting us. You know, I don't believe in just having 4 starters. That's great in theory, but in reality, having a guy play 60 snaps full speed is just not realistic over a course of time. So, but you're giving guys the opportunity to go out and perform at a high level and be fresh while they're doing it.